Hello, and welcome to Danswers. I am your host, Dan Donahue, and it's a Sunday episode. And we all know what Sunday episodes mean. It means that I am doing this after coming back from from Buffalo Wild Wings. You know, they should call it Buffalo Wild Wings because a lot of people there did take the bus to get there. And before you start in the comments, I think it's a good thing to take the bus. And I love the people in Buffalo Wild Wings, okay? Specifically in Glendale. It's a beautiful part of the city where, other parts of the city don't have things that I need. Like, other parts of the city don't have meters where you can only use quarters. And I like that in a city. It's like, hey, don't come here. That's strong. That's a strong stance to take as a city planner. Anyway, welcome to the live. We have some questions that I'm going to answer. This is Danswers, the live show where I answer questions that I accrue throughout the week, and I put them up here, and we're going to start a little bit more down the line. I had a plan for this episode. Here's the first question. It's an interesting question. It's a good question. That's why I'm answering it first. It's right there. How come I can't find me a man's? It's a great question. I like a question that's to the point, that's simple, but that has a lot of meaning. There's a lot you can dissect from this. There's a lot that you can take. I'll take really it's the question that's on a lot of people's minds. How come I can't find me a man's? It's a question many philosophers throughout history have asked. I'll be brief with this one. Maybe you can't find you a man's because there's been a man's. The thing you're looking for has been inside of you the whole time. The man's you're looking for is in the mirror. Okay? Think about that. Mull that over for a second. Maybe you don't need a man's. Maybe you need something in your heart. I hate those answers, to be honest with you. And whenever you're in a situation where a question is posed to somebody who is in my position but actually has qualifications, I really don't like, maybe because she has bad grammar. Hey, in the chat, somebody just said maybe because she has bad grammar. Hey, shut up, okay? Let people talk fun. Not everyone has to be perfect or talk in a way that you think is acceptable. I say that as somebody who makes many mistakes, both on purpose and intentionally. And I think policing people's language and spelling and grammar and stuff is counterproductive. And it's a way to avoid actually communicating with people on a level that, that you would find common ground with them. I hate when people answer a question and the way that they answer it is by going, you know what, maybe the answer is inside you all the time. No, maybe you need a boyfriend. Honestly, maybe, that's obviously not the whole answer, right? It's not the whole answer to the question. There's a lot of stuff that you probably need to work on too, but maybe your life would be better if you had a partner. If you can't find one, maybe you're not looking for the right ones. Maybe you're seeking out partners that aren't good for you. Maybe you're not looking in the right places. Maybe you haven't set your life up in a way that is conducive to finding a partner that you actually would enjoy being with. Right? Like, all of those are potential answers. A short, simple question like this is kind of hard to answer because I can't be very specific with it. But, Cooper was at Buffalo Wild Wings. Someone in the chat, in a very scary way, asked me if Cooper was at Buffalo Wild Wings with me. Yes. Me, Cooper, and another friend watched the Bengals win, and that was a good day. But that's aside from the point. I hope you find a man that you enjoy in your life. And I'm sorry you can't find one, but be patient. Be very patient with yourself. I find that in any point in my life where I was lamenting about not having a girlfriend, I look back on that point and I was like, oh, it's good you didn't have a girlfriend because you were a feral beast. Like, I every time I look back on not having a boyfriend, I was like, oh, you didn't wear matching shoes out most of the time. It is a great thing that you did not have a girlfriend. not to say that you're in that negative of a position, right? But maybe your life is in a place right now where it actually wouldn't be great to have a male partner. It's possible. Great question. Also, I am going to reiterate, sometimes the questions have bad spelling and grammar. I am a person who spent a good part of my life in special education. Specifically, a lot of my issues did stem around spelling and grammar. So yeah, I'm a little sensitive to like people who are overcorrecting of spelling and grammar, and also not only correcting, I think that's fine, but like insult people based on their lack of such skills, because I think it's arbitrary and I don't think that it matters. So if you save that for whatever dumb book club you're a part of, don't bring that here, okay? Um would you rather be pregnant once a year for life or never pay any taxes ever again? Let me see if I'm reading that right. Would you rather be pregnant once a year for life or never pay any taxes again? All right, I read it right. Let's answer it. Um, Whoever asked this question probably understands me very deeply, right? Because they know I love paying taxes. It's one of my greatest joys in life is paying taxes. I love government projects that go nowhere. I love allocating a huge portion of a budget to extra lanes on a highway when that could have gone to equitable public transit that would have benefited everyone and made the city more livable. I love that. I love paying taxes. I love giving money to the creation of drones that will go on to hurt people in countries that I have never heard of, and cause untold harm and damage to the family members of people I will never meet. That's what taxes are all about. Okay? I'm a big tax guy. Tax me more. You know what I mean? Increase my tax rate. But no, yeah, you know what? I would take just you. It's always good to answer the hypotheticals in a fun way. You know what? Make me pregnant once a year for life so I can walk around in the beautiful world my taxes have created. The beautiful dystopian world of 400 lane highways that still have traffic. That's where I want to live. Okay? That's where I want to go. That's where I want to be. The beautiful tax world. Let me be pregnant in tax land. Great question. Somebody asked in the chat, this is a good question. I don't know if this is a good dancer question. There's no such thing as a bad dancer question. Someone in the chat asked, how does dating on the West Coast compare to the East Coast? It's dating everywhere is pretty much the same. Like, obviously, it's very different the ways that you have to date. Like, I mean, I've dated in it matters more who you are than where you are. Dating hinges so much more on who you are than where you. For instance, when I was on the East Coast, people are always like, "Oh, dating in LA is so hard. It's so much easier in places like the East Coast." Not for me, because again, when I was living on the East Coast, my life was in shambles, and I didn't really have a good sense of self, and I had no self-esteem. So for me, dating on the East Coast sucked. It's not because the East Coast is bad. It's because I was. So it's a good question. I do like the question. There's a great saying that I got like third hand from someone. I think it's Horace, but it's it's so funny to say I love this saying and now to not remember, but it's basically he changes his sky and not his heart, he who travels across the sea. And basically what that means is moving is an insignificant and a lot of times like not a holistic way of changing yourself, because what matters is like who you are. You know what I mean? Oh, and someone added in the chat update. I asked a question the other week about asking a girl out, and we got coffee, and it was a really fun time. That's what I'm talking about. Hell yes. Whoa. Hey, everybody in the chat, get some thumbs up for that fella. That's awesome. I'm really glad that worked out. This is exciting times. I hope you're happy. I hope you're having a good time with this person. Um, don't ever tell them that you watched this show. Okay? This is not a good selling point. Keep this between you and me. Next question, what's Dan's ideal first date? That's a really good question. I'm sorry to spend so much time on chat questions, but these are good chat questions. I really like these. What's my ideal first date? Okay, if we're actually talking about ideal first date, I'm going to tell you and you're not going to agree with it. First of all, it's going to last 15 minutes. We are going to meet in a park during the day on two benches facing each other about 6 feet away. Okay? We are going to have a 15-minute conversation. No matter how good or bad the conversation is going, at 15 minutes, that conversation ends, we get up, we leave. Here's why. So much of a first date requires a allocation of like at least 2 hours. Unless you want to leave early, which I have done, and which requires a lot of maneuvering and repositioning, right? And that we don't like that. The 15 minutes is going to allow the second date to be the first date. Now, I know that's confusing because you asked me what my ideal first date is. I think it would be such a good idea, and I know that you can't really do this in the society we live, but it would just be so good because FaceTime is, if you could just meet in person in a public place during the day and just have a 15-minute conversation just to suss out whether or not this person, A, is who they say they are, right? That's always I've shown up on dates and it's been a completely different person. I'm sure people have shown up to dates with me and been like, oh, this was not what I was expecting, right? Why is this person talking about public transit so much? I thought he was just a dumb guy in a jean jacket, and that's what I was looking for. I'm sure that's happened to people who've gone on dates with me. So that's what I would say. 15 minutes, public park, have a conversation. And then if you don't want to hit that person up after, you just don't have to. It would save so much time. It would create such better first dates. That's my answer. Great question. Here's the next official question that I got. It's a little bit of a longer one. Okay. My husband and I are raising 5 kids in the age of Minecraft and Roblox. I don't even know what Roblox is. And that's aging me, and that's fine. I don't know what Roblox is. It could be great. I don't know what it is. I'm assuming it's a computer game. I feel it's important to let you know that my husband and I are not religious zealots. We are both only children who have overcompensated for our children's loneliness. That's great. Good. You sound like good parents. Well, you could be bad. I don't know. I don't know who you are. I don't know why I'm so quick to assume that you're a good parent, but I like you so far is what I'm going to say. Let's reserve our superlatives. However, as an elder millennial, we both grow up under the prophecy of Skynet. Admittedly, I don't know much about gaming, but it seems like the most popular game that my kids enjoy to play, like Metaverse Lite. Should we protect them from the inevitable or just give in to the progressive robot takeover? That's a great, I do really like that question because I think a lot of parents are in this really weird space. And even if you don't have kids, I think it is interesting to appreciate the fact that like people are still obviously having kids, raising kids in like modern times. And it's hard, right? Because I knew kids growing up. Now that I'm 28, like I knew kids growing up who were sheltered from computers and media in like a really definitive way. And I don't know how much it actually helped them. Okay. And I'll explain. Like, the kids I know now who are incredibly successful were incredibly media literate at a young age. I think the answer to that is if you're going to give kids access to like the internet and stuff, which I actually think is a good idea with a caveat, right? Social media is different. We'll get into that in a second, but I think like access to things like video games and stuff is actually overall kind of can be a good thing. because it forces kids into like a degree of media literacy. The issue is uncontrolled media access. Like I my parents were great, but my parents were completely hands off. And I think that made me creative. And I think it also made me a little bit nuts to a degree, right? Like as a kid, because they were just like anything you want. Internet's open, all that stuff. It didn't turn me into like a deviant. I would definitely look up movies where there were nudity. Oh man. Because I wouldn't watch porn as a kid. I would just watch Hollywood movies where there were scenes of nudity in them. That was my big thing. Because my parents would also rent me any movie I wanted. So if you looked at my viewing history and you didn't know that, you would be like, this is a young film like genius. Why is this 12-year-old watching Beyond the Valley of the Dolls? And then lo and behold, it was because there were beautiful, supple breasts. Why did I say beautiful? And maybe the nostalgia sort of took over when I was describing the breasts in that movie. They would be like, why is he watching? Like, I mean, there were just so many, like, there was a movie, Sex and Lucia, which is like kind of I think it was avant-garde in a way, but also just had a bunch of nude scenes. So I'd say that to say this. Complete non-regulatory access to like media, I think, is kind of a bad thing. But I think what you actually should do is just like very, very like watch over and direct, right? So if your kid's playing Minecraft and Roblox, that's great, but make sure, try to teach them like these sorts of things are not things to binge. They're things as like a treat to yourself on top of other things. So still do stuff on the computer other than Minecraft and Roblox, but like learn skills on the internet while you're playing these games. I think that that's probably the best answer. But I definitely don't think you're giving into the progressive robot takeover. Giving into the progressive robot takeover is doing what we do to ourselves with our phones, which is bad, which is just unlimited access. Do whatever you want. Go on social media as much as you want. Doom scroll, all that shit. That's bad. And we do that to ourselves. And I can see doing that to your kids, and that's kind of what you want to avoid for both your kids and yourselves. Because really, at the end of the day, you're your own kid. Ugh. All right, next question. Oh no. Oh no, I got this. Great. I'm just going to rescale. So this is from another social media person. They're a creator. They make videos, and this is a question they asked me. I was discussing the other day my exasperation with the constant appearance comments one gets on social media. For as long as I have been dancing, I have been subjected to opinions on my weight/look, etc. that I never asked for. And to me, it's ironic. I often get feedback about my appearance versus just the dancing. Because I am a dancer. It's a dancing page. You either like my dancing or you don't. I'll stop there and pause real quick. That is tough. Because whatever you want to do, whatever your pursuit is, whatever your goal is, if you have to take to the internet to do it, there are certain things on the internet that are just unfortunate and yet inevitable realities that anyone on the internet will tell you, one of which is your appearance will almost always be scrutinized. I'm not saying that's a good thing by any means. I actually think people are obviously way too obsessed with appearance, especially online. But this is I think going to be a great question because this is a reality that a lot of people who live life requiring them to go online experience. One person I was discussing it with suggested that it was justified because dancing is entertainment and people are entitled to their opinions, blah, blah. I argued just because it's normalized doesn't mean it's okay. I would agree with that. And wouldn't it be better if we just focused on the entertainment that we enjoyed for the quality of the entertainment and not require the entertainer to meet our beauty standards? I'm with you so far. Essentially, they think I should let it go. I think it should change. I noticed on one of your reels here a surprising amount of comments focused on your appearance/attractiveness, which I thought was odd since it's a comedy page. Anyway, my long-winded question is, does it bother you? Oh, so this is a question about me. Interesting. Does it bother you at all to get this unsolicited feedback about your appearance when you are just making comedy, or do you enjoy it, or are you indifferent? I mean, great question. I'm not indifferent. I don't think indifferent is the right word. And I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like, just because it's normalized doesn't mean it's good that people pick. I'm not talking about myself here. I think that my experience of people commenting on my appearance is like so trivial compared to other people who actually have like a lot of negative comments on that stuff. It's like, even the negative comments about my appearance, it doesn't really bother me that much, right? But here's what I'll say. Just because something is wrong doesn't mean that it's not inevitable. I think that like you can definitely strive to change that, and like putting out messaging where you're like, I don't want people to comment on my body or whatever. I want people to focus on the videos. I think that's great, and it's great to strive for that. I personally see it as a foregone conclusion. It's like, I mean, we know this because movies have been around forever, right? Like, and acting has been around for so long. And since its inception, acting has been, or actors have just been picked apart based on their appearances, based on their looks, right? To a much higher degree than obviously I ever have. And a lot of that shit can be tweaked and changed, but it's minor changes. It's not going to be all at once. So for now, I think it does just have to be accepted as like, if you want to exist on a completely open source, free form, visual form of entertainment where you are putting your body and face out there, it's just one of the things on the screen that people will scrutinize. Now, I think over time we can shift the narrative as to what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. But even if you do, it's just gonna happen. It's like, we've been having these conversations, and there's been a lot of like very cool things to happen from those conversations, right? Like I remember, I forget which actress it was, but they were talking to them about it was a woman who was an actor, and she was in like a skin tight bodysuit for a Marvel movie, and one of the people asked her like, like what were all the workouts you had to do to fit in that tight little body costume, and she was just like, why aren't you asking any of the male act like this? So there, and that kind of got attention and started a really interesting conversation with that. I think did kind of make a little tiny shift towards, people being more aware of not just openly saying whatever they want about people's bodies online. But to me, I do think if you're putting like your image out on social media, it just will be criticized. It's like, you can push to change it, but it is unfortunately just a nature of the beast. It's the nature of what you're doing, in the same way that like musicians also go through that. Like, musicians are so scrutinized on their bodies, and it's unfortunate. But if you're asking me how I feel, it's like, I mean, comedy has gone in this weird direction where I think a lot of people are like much more looks focused when it comes to comedy, which is wrong. And I think it's completely counterproductive in finding the funniest people, but it is what it is, so I still enjoy making my comedy, and I think people like it, and whatever people say about me is just kind of their thing. That's how I see it. Scarlett Johansson, that's who it was. Scarlett Johansson. Thank you. See, this is why the chat rules. Thank you, chat. I appreciate you, chat. All right, thank you very much. Did you wear underwear under the suit was the question. God, the chat rules. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. Wow. Okay, this is the last question. How does one explain to her boyfriend of 2 years that she is actually a lesbian? What a question. Um, well, let me say this: as a straight guy who has dated, well, I've dated a woman who came out later. Mind you, we weren't dating at the time; it is very different. But when we were dating, I did have like a sense of there being like a maybe a space between us that later when we had a conversation, we kind of like came to the realization that like, oh, that space between us was because you weren't completely like aware at the time that you had that you were attracted to women and not men, and it's like, oh well, that made a lot of sense. But I think it gives me like a little perspective on this, but I don't want to, this is like a really important thing, and I don't want to be, give you a wrong answer, but I would say you should make like a big cardboard cutout, um like how people ask each other to prom, and you should like sprinkles, construction paper, all that stuff, and it should say I heart girls, and then you flip it over, and on the other side it just says sorry. I'm kidding. Obviously I'm kidding. But here's the thing. As a guy, if this guy, you've been dating for 2 years, if you really like him, I'm assuming that he's not like a monster. I'm assuming he's not a bad person. People can take things bad ways, and you should be like aware of that. But I do think putting myself in their shoes is all I can do, and I think I would be like obviously upset if he's been dating you for 2 years and then realizing this. But I think there's a good chance there'll be a good level of understanding there. I feel like as far as getting broken up with goes, it always sucks, but getting broken up with because the person you're dating found out a fundamental truth of themselves, and that I think that that's better than I was fucking your brother. You know what I mean? Hey, isn't it good you're not fucking his brother? I can't stay serious when answering these important questions. That's not why you tune into this show. But I do think, like, from a guy's perspective, I would say this is, like, not the worst way to get broken up with. And I think that there is, like, as far as the, like, we should still be friends things go, this is actually a situation where you very well could still be friends. And that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't put too much pressure on it. I would say just explain to this person how you feel. Be as in detail as you feel comfortable with, because I think that would really help. Be like, this is when I realized it. These are the feelings that I've been having. It's going to be tough. It's like a tough thing to talk about. But I think as much as you can give perspective, instead of just, making a 3.5 minute pop song called, Sorry, Chad. I couldn't come up with a. Let's think about that. Sorry, what would it be? It would be like, sorry, Chad, I want to fuck your mom. Something like that. That would be a hit these days. If Billy did that song like 2 years ago, radio sensation, right? But I think being as literally explain it as much as you possibly can, and try to get your feelings in order before you do. But it's like, yeah, these things, I know it sounds crazy because life is insane. It's one of those, like, sometimes life feels extreme. And it's funny because it's like, it is extreme, but that's also just normal life. Like, normal life is this really extreme thing. You know what I mean? It's like you're not a spectator all the time. Sometimes you actually, like, live in the, like, if life is like that professional motocross stuff where they're going over the jumps and it's dirt. We see ourselves as like watching it, but sometimes we're the guys on the motorcycles, if that makes sense. And right now you're Evil Knievel, okay? You're jumping over 12 bus loads full of life right now. And that's really challenging. And again, if you dated this person for 2 years, if you really like this person, I feel like if you've dated someone for 2 years, you really know them, you've really found a connection. I think that you can sort of trust them to be able to take an extreme thing. I hope you can, right? And I hope this goes well for you. And also, it's like, I know that this is kind of stupid, but it's also like, it's great that you figured this out now rather than later. It's great that you're sorting this out now. Some people repress that kind of thing their whole life. And it's unfortunate that you're dating someone and that like this realization about yourself might lead to hurt for somebody, but it's like, as long as you're being understanding about the other person's feelings and you're not like being a sociopath about it, which obviously it seems like you're not because you're concerned with their feelings. So that's the really important thing. It's like, I think they'll understand, you know? And yeah, you're going to be confronted with one of three things. It might be a little bit of like resentment, maybe a little bit of anger. That would be unfortunate. It might be understanding, and that would be great. And he might ask for a three-way, and then you can kind of just shrug it off and leave. Do you know what I mean? Because that, I know guys from back home where if their girlfriend told them that they were actually lesbian, the second thing they would do is ask in-depth questions about like, you know, what that means and how it shapes them and when they understood their sexuality. And the first thing they would ask is, does this mean we can have three ways now? So just be prepared for that. I apologize to let you into the darkness of the feral male psyche like that, but that is truly a possibility, unfortunately. But great question. Thank you for asking it. I'm sorry that, like, you know, that's a hard thing to have to deal with, but also it's exciting. You know what I mean? You know what? Think about the excitement that you'll have after that conversation. Think about the world. The world's going to open up to you. You know what I mean? It's a whole new ball game you're about to play. Is a baseball analogy appropriate in this situation? I don't know. But great question. Please let us know how it goes. I would love to, hear more about it. Thank everyone for listening. Please subscribe and like on whatever platform you're watching.